Welcome back to Impact Math with Miss Taylor. Alrighty, we're gonna graph each equation by making a table, okay? So we're given an equation here, y minus 8 equals negative x, and we're gonna graph by making an x and y table, okay? So you really only need 2 points to graph a line. Always remember that, okay? So x, y. So here we have to look at what do we want to plug into, okay? You can plug into the y or you can plug into the x. It does not matter as long as you make up your mind what you're going to do. I'm going to plug a few into the x just to show you what it's going to look like, and then I'll plug a few into the y, okay? So let's start with 0 as x. So if I make 0x, that means I'm plugging in 0 here. So I'm going to do y minus 8 equals negative times 0. Well, negative 1, because really that's a 1 there. A negative 1 times 0 is just 0. And then we have y minus 8. Well, how do we get y by itself? We do the opposite by adding 8 to both sides. And we get y equals 8. Okay, so we have 8 here. So that's our first point, okay? Now we could choose a different number. Let's say if we choose 1, and we put 1 as x. So here I would go, let's do it over here. Let's do it under here. Y minus 8 equals a negative 1 times 1. Remember, this negative here is a negative 1 really. And so we're plugging in 1 for x. So a negative 1 times 1 is a negative 1. And then y minus 8, okay, we drop that down. We're still going to add 8 to get it to the other side because we have to do the opposite of this minus. So we're going to add 8, and y equals 8 minus 1 is 7. So we get 7 here, okay? Now let's plug in. Let me show you if you chose to plug in for y. So if we plugged in for y instead, let's plug in 0 for y. Oh, 0 for y, not the x, right? Okay, so we're plugging in 0 for y. So this case, I would start off with 0 minus 8 equals negative x. Okay, see how I plugged in 0 for y? So 0 minus 8 is negative 8 equals negative x. Well, x, we're still not done because x is not by itself. It still has that negative 1 attached to it, and it's attached by multiplying. So we have to undo it with division. And so x equals a negative divided by a negative is always a positive. And so we would get 8 divided by 1 is 8. So we would end up with 8 here. So let's go to plot these, okay? So 0, 8, so 0, and then we're gonna go up 8 on the y, and that's our first point, okay? Now we're gonna start at the origin. It says to go positive 1 on the x, and then up 7 on the y. So I go right here. Here's my next point. Now I go to 8 on the x, and I don't move anywhere for the y. So I put my point right here, and then I draw my line. And that's graphing using a table. All right, let's go to the next. All right, graph using a table. So they gave us x equals 5y plus 5. So we're gonna make our table here. We'll do, remember, you only need 2 points to graph a line, okay? You only need 2 points. So this is the x, this is the y. So let's plug in for y, okay? And you could plug in for x. It literally does not matter. You just have to make up your mind, decide, and go with what you decide. So I'm gonna plug in 0 for y. So I'm gonna write x equals 5. Remember, whenever you have a number attached to a variable, they're multiplied. That's why I'm putting parentheses to show multiplication, 5 times 0. plus 5 here. Now 5 times 0 is 0 plus 5. And so we have x equals 5. Okay, now let's choose another point. So let's say if I plugged in, let's do a negative number. Let's plug in negative 2 for y. So then I would do x equals 5 times negative 2 plus 5. So I'm replacing this y with negative 2. So 5 times negative 2 is negative 10 plus 5 equals x. And negative 10 plus 5, well, if somebody owes you $10 and they paid you 5, they still owe you $5 left. So we would get negative 5. Okay, now let me show you what it would look like if you decided to plug in for x. So let's plug in 0 for x here. So I would start with 0 equals 5y plus 5. Now, how do I get this positive 5 to the other side? I would minus 5 to both sides. And I would get negative 5 equals 5y. How do we get y by itself? Divide both sides by 5, and we get y equals negative 1. And we'll have negative 1 here. So now let's go to plot, right? So you remember when you plot your x, you're going left or right, and then you're going up and down here. So what do I mean? I'm going to start at 0, but my x's have to go to 5, and then my y is 0, so I can't move up and down. So this is my point. Okay. I find negative 5 on the x, so I go to the left, and then I go down 2, and that's my point. Now I'm going back to 0, and then it says negative 1, so I'm going to drop down 1 right here. And then I'm going to connect my 3 points. And that is my line. All right, let's go on to the next. Number 3, graph using x and y intercepts. Okay, so now we're going to get into x and y intercepts. What you have to understand about x and y intercepts is we're looking for a point that's going to lie on the y-axis and a point that's going to lie on the x-axis. And how we do that is we have to make x equal to 0 when we're solving for the y-intercept. So if I plug in 0 for the x, minus y equals negative 3. Well, 0 minus y is negative y equals negative 3. And remember, this is a negative 1 here. So if we want to undo this, we have to divide. So we're going to divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, and we get y equals 3. So my y-intercept is going to be, what did I plug in for x? 0. And my y is 3. And this is how you write your y-intercept. Okay. Now let's find our x-intercept. So if we have to find our x-intercept, then we have to make the y equal to 0. It's like backwards. You're like, why is it like that? But that's how math is, right? So it's backwards. So when I plug in 0 for y, I'm solving for the x-intercept. So I'm going to do x minus, I'm replacing that y with 0, equals negative 3. Now, how do I get this minus 0 to the other side? Well, I'm going to add 0 to both sides. And then I get x equals a negative 3. So I plug my x is negative 3, my y is 0. And this is my x-intercept because the number is in the x spot. That's why it's an x-intercept. The number here is on the y spot, so that's why it's a y-intercept. And they have to have 0, okay? So let's plot these. So we have 0, 3. So go to 0. Then we're going to go up 3. And that's our y-intercept. See how it lies on the y-axis? Now we have negative 3. So I'm going to negative 3 on the x-axis. And then I have a 0 for y, so I don't move. And this is my x-intercept. So now we connect those. And this is how we graph using x and y intercepts. If you made it this far, I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much for getting my watch hours up. I really appreciate you. Don't forget to hit that follow button and share this out with who's ever struggling with algebra. All right, let's go to the next. Evelyn has $200 in her school lunch account. She spends $40 each week on school lunches. The equation y equals 200 minus 40x represents the total amount in Evelyn's school lunch account. Find the x and y intercept and graph. All right. Okay, so they gave us this beautiful equation here. Okay, we're going to use the x and y intercept. So again, what that means is we're making x equal to 0 to solve for the y-intercept. So we're going to use this equation. We're going to plug in 0 for x. So we're going to do y equals 200 minus 40 times 0. 40 times 0 is 0. So y equals 200. So the initial, what she's starting with is $200, okay? So we write this 0, 200. Why 0 first? Is because that's what the x is. Remember, a point always consists of an x and a y, okay? And our y that we solved for was 200. Now, let's go to solving for the x-intercept. So we're going to make y equals 0. So we're going to plug in 0 here. So 0 equals 200 minus 40x. Well, the first thing that I want to do is I want to isolate this negative 40x. So I can move this over here, or I can move the 200. It does not matter. You just decide and you go with it. So I'm going to move this over here. So I'm going to add 40x to both sides. So 0 plus 40 is 40x equals 200. Well, how do we get x by itself? Whenever you have a number attached to a variable, they're multiplied. So to undo multiplication, we have to divide. And we're going to divide both sides by 40. So we get x equals, if we can cross out a 0 here, because 0 over 0 cancels out, 20 divided by 4 is 5. So our x-intercept will be 5, 0. So we would go 5 on the x-axis and put a point there because we don't move up. And then our y-intercept would be 0, go up to 200. And so after, what is it? Are we in months or weeks? Okay, we are each week. So after 5 weeks, she's out of money. $200 for 5 weeks, right? Ooh, ridiculous. So we graphed it. We used our intercepts. We understand that she has 200 in the beginning to spend. After 5 weeks, we got to put some more money in if she want to buy some more school lunches. All right. Pause the video here. Try number 5. See if you get it. And let's go to the next. Alrighty. Graph using intercepts. Okay. So we're going to make x equals 0. And we're going to solve for the y. So I'm going to write 4y equals negative 12 times. Remember, these are connected through multiplication. So times 0 plus 36. So we get 4y equals negative 12 times 0 is 0 plus 36. Drop down your 4y, and 0 plus 36 is 36. How do we get y by itself? Divide both sides by 4, and y equals 9. So how we write this is we're going to write 0, 9. X, then y always when you're writing a point. All right, let's go to the next. Let's solve for the x-intercept. So we're going to make y equal to 0. So we're going to do 4 times 0 equals negative 12x plus 36. So 4 times 0 is 0. And then you go negative 12, drop down everything else. Okay. Now we want to get the x to one side and the number on the other. So we can move the 36 or we can move the 12x. It does not matter. You have to decide, make your decision and move it. So last time I moved the x over, this time I'm going to move the number over. So we're going to minus 36 because that's opposite of plus to both sides. And so 0 minus 36 is negative 36 equals negative 12x. These are connected through multiplication. We undo it by division. So we're going to divide by negative 12. And we get x equals 3. Because a negative divided by negative is a positive. And then 12 times 3 is 36. So we write this as 3, 0. So now let's go to plot. So if we're plotting this, we're going to go 0, then up 9. That's our y-intercept. And then we're going to go to 3 positive, and then don't move. And that is how you graph this equation. Alrighty, I hope this lesson blessed you, and I hope that you understand it more better, or I should say more better. I ain't no English teacher, I'm a math teacher, okay? But I hope you understand it better and that you get an A on your next test on this section. Have a wonderful, blessed day, and I most definitely will catch you on the next one. Bye!